Councilmember Jimmy Clanton.
Here.
Councilmember Rob Turner.
Here.
Councilmember Jasmine Cobble. Councilmember George Turner.
Here.
Councilmember Tammy Grimes. Here. Mayor Jason Leary.
Thank you. Here.
We have a
All right.
quorum.
Folks, you stand for invocation and pledge. All right. Yes, sir, you are him today.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. As we start our new year and as we start our new decade, there's a scripture that I'd just like to share with you. It's very brief, but this is something that I believe our city as well as our citizens need to stand on. It's Micah 6:8. It says, "What does the Lord require of us?" It says, "But to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly before our God." And that's what he requires, not only of us as citizens, but us as council people, as mayor, as all those people that we're leading and that we're covering logistically as well as legislatively. So, Father, we just thank you for this time. We thank you for another year. We thank you for this decade. We thank you, Lord, that we will walk humbly. We will walk with grace and mercy, that we will walk with pride and dignity, that we will walk with transparency and openness, that we will take care of the people that you've given us to shepherd over in this city. We thank you, Lord, for our mayor and for our council who you have chosen to be the leaders of this city, to bring quality and life to everyone that's there. So, Father, I thank you for this evening. I thank you for us coming together today. I thank you for the direction that you have for us, and I thank you for the blessings in store for this great city that will not only be a blessing to DeKalb County and to the state of Georgia, but also to the United States and to the world. So we honor you today, Lord, and we give you all the glory and praise for it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to move to a portion of our meeting that's so proud for us to have. We will have the oath of office for Councilmember Rob Turner and Councilmember George Turner. If you all take front row and center, we have a person that is ready to do his diligence here. And any family members that would like to join them, now would be that time.
All right, place your hand on the Bible and raise your hand, sir. Please repeat after me. I, Rob Turner,
I, Rob Turner,
do solemnly swear or affirm
solemnly swear or affirm
that I will faithfully execute the office of council member
that I will faithfully execute the office of council member
of the City of Stonecrest,
of the City of Stonecrest,
and I will do to the best of my ability
and I will do to the best of my ability
support and defend the Constitution of the United States,
support and defend the Constitution of the United States,
Constitution of Georgia,
the Constitution of Georgia,
and the Charter, ordinances, and regulations of the City of Stonecrest.
and the Charter, ordinance, and regulations of the City of Stonecrest.
I am not the holder of any unaccounted for public money
I am not the holder of any unaccounted for public money
due this state
through this state
or any political subdivision
or any political subdivision
or authority thereof.
or authority thereof.
I am not the holder of any office of trust
I am not the holder of the office of trust
under the government of the United States,
under the government of the United States,
any other state,
any other state,
or any foreign state,
or any foreign state,
which I, by the laws of the state of Georgia,
which I, by the laws of the state of Georgia,
am prohibited from holding.
am prohibited to hold.
I am otherwise qualified
I am otherwise qualified
to hold said office
to hold said office
according to the Constitution
according to the Constitution
and laws of Georgia.
and the laws of Georgia.
I have been a resident of my district
I have been a resident of my district
and the City of Stonecrest
and the City of Stonecrest
for the time required by the Constitution
for the time required by the Constitution,
and laws of this state,
laws of this state,
and by the municipal charter.
and by the municipal charter.
I will perform the duties of my office
I will perform the duties of my office
in the best interest of the City of Stonecrest,
in the best interest of the City of Stonecrest,
to the best of my
to
ability,
the best of my ability,
without fear,
without fear,
favor,
Favor.
affection,
affection,
reward,
reward,
or expectation thereof.
or expectation thereof.
Congratulations.
Thank
Repeat after me. I, George Turner,
I, George Turner,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will faithfully execute the office of council member
I will faithfully execute the council member
of the City of Stonecrest,
of the City of Stonecrest,
and will, to the best of my ability,
will to the best of my ability
support and defend the Constitution of the United States,
support and defend the Constitution of the United States,
Constitution of Georgia,
Constitution of Georgia,
and the Charter,
and the Charter,
ordinances,
ordinance,
and regulations
and
of the City of
regulations of the
Stonecrest.
City of Stonecrest.
I am not the holder of any unaccounted for public money
I am not the holder of any unaccounted
to this state
to this state
or any political subdivision
or any political subdivision
or authority thereof.
or authority thereof.
I am not the holder of any office
I am not the holder of any office,
of trust
trust
under the government of the United States,
under the government of the United States,
any other state,
any other state,
or any foreign state,
or any foreign state,
which I, by the laws of the state of Georgia,
guided by the laws of the state of Georgia,
am prohibited from holding.
am prohibited from holding.
I am otherwise qualified
I am otherwise qualified
to hold said office
to hold said office
according to the Constitution
according to the Constitution
and laws of Georgia.
and laws of Georgia.
I have been a resident of my district
I have been a resident of my district
in the City of Stonecrest
and the City of Stonecrest,
for the time required by the Constitution
time required by the Constitution
and laws of this state
and laws of this state
and by the municipal charter.
and by the municipal charter.
I will perform the duties of my office
I will perform the duties of my office
in the best interest of the City of Stonecrest
best of the City of Stonecrest
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
without fear,
without fear,
favor,
favor,
affection,
affection,
reward,
reward,
or expectation thereof.
or expectation thereof.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Again.
Thank you, Judge. All right. Congratulations, gentlemen. Very well, very well. All right, we'll move for the approval of the council agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I make a motion that we approve the council agenda for January 13, 2020.
All right, properly moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, properly moved in second. All in favor?
Not ready.
Okay.
One question.
Yes, sir.
Do we add the mayor pro tem selection to the agenda, or we handle that outside of the agenda?
We're going to handle that next meeting, as a matter of fact.
No, according to the charter, it's supposed to be handled at this meeting.
According to where in the charter, it's supposed to be handled at this meeting.
Directly in the charter, it says at the very first meeting.
All right. We still need some further discussion on it, Councilman.
I just took an oath to follow the charter.
Okay.
And the charter clearly says that at the very first meeting of the city council, we will be sworn in, and at that meeting, you will select from the council members a mayor pro tem. And it's not vague at all. It's very clear.
Well, as you said today, Councilman, you're Mayor Pro Tem, so we can wait till
Yes.
next meeting.
And if it's not done, then the mayor pro tem continues.
Mayor Pro Tem continues. We'll do it next meeting.
I see no reason to wait, but that seems in order as well.
Okay. Thank you. We'll do it next meeting. I'll take a vote on what, Councilwoman?
Was that, Councilman Turner, was that your recommendation to amend the council meeting agenda? That's the portion that we're in, right? To adopt the agenda?
That's the portion that we're in. That's correct.
So, Councilman Turner, was that your recommendation to add that to the agenda? And if so, we need to follow the procedure to vote, yea or nay on that?
Well, my question was, did it need to be added, or was it automatic because it was a charter matter? And if it was a charter matter, then we simply would follow the charter. And I don't have clarity as to whether or not it would be required to be done at the meeting, this meeting, or another meeting. But based on the way the charter is written, it says first meeting. This is the first meeting. But if no action is taken, I think whoever is mayor pro tem becomes mayor pro tem by default, for not having selected a new mayor pro tem.
Or to the next meeting.
It doesn't
Now
address.
you're adding to the charter now.
It doesn't address second meeting. You're changing the charter if you make it the second meeting instead of the first meeting.
But you would be doing the same by saying that.
Now, I'm just saying that if it's not processed, then by default, whoever is mayor pro tem remains mayor pro tem because it's stated in the charter that the mayor pro tem will serve until another mayor pro tem is selected. And the next opportunity to select the mayor pro tem is 2 years from now.
No, it would be next meeting.
That will be 2 years from now. So it's the first meeting following the municipal election. And the next municipal election is 2 years from now.
Mr. City Attorney, I'll take your call.
Looking at it, Mayor. I'm looking at section charter 09 indicates.
All right. We'll add the selection of Mayor Pro Tem to the appointment section. Any other changes? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. Public comments. Madam Clerk? I'm sorry. I apologize. Before we do that, this is to, do we have any presentations? Yes, ma'am.
We're at number 7, the minutes.
Minutes. I skipped 2. All right. Let's go to the minutes. Approval of minutes for December 9th, 2019. Just had an opportunity, council, to take a look at those. I know that we had to do something different today. All right, council, you see any changes? Any updates? Seeing none, I'll take a motion for approval of the minutes for December 9th, 2019.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
move approval of the minutes from December 9th, 2019.
All right, properly moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
And second. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? There you have it. Now, Madam Clerk, do we have any presentations?
Mr. Pledge Joyner has a presentation for the 2020 SPLOST paving schedule.
So
Mr. Jordan.
actually, for presentations this evening, we'll have an update on our 2019 activities on SPLOST, the 2020 paving schedule, and we'll also have an update from VHB concerning the Transportation Master Plan progress as well. Okay?
All right, sounds good.
Quick question. Is this taking place of new business, or are you going to do this again in new business?
No, these are just going to be presentations.
So we're-
Yes, it's taking place of new business A.
It is taking place in new business?
Correct,
Yes.
correct, yes.
Should we have
And do it
made
all
that
together.
adjustment on the agenda?
Alrighty. I'll just go ahead and dive right in here. This is going to be a update on our SPLOST program from last year, and just want to level set everyone on where we are. What is SPLOST? How the SPLOST funds will be utilized and how they are being utilized. Our program management plan approach, our procurement and purchasing plan, the next steps for that, next steps for our Stonecrest SPLOST initiative, as well as the Stonecrest SPLOST project. So we'll give an update on what we did in 2019 and then give a preview of what we'll be looking to do in 2020. Just as to, once again, to level set everyone, SPLOST stands for Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax. It's a 1% county sales tax that was levied, that was passed in November of 2017. And it's an optional 1% county sales tax used to fund capital and capital outlay projects proposed by the county government and qualified participating municipal governments. The tax is collected on all sales items. We did make some changes here in the DeKalb County one, where groceries and unprepared foods are not taxed, as well as pharmaceutical drugs are not taxed as well. The way this SPLOST was set up in DeKalb County, it was split between 85% must be spent on transportation and infrastructure projects, and we could spend up to 15% on capital improvements and facilities within our area. The allocation of the funds going to the county, going to the municipalities was based on the population. According to the 2010 census. So that meant that unincorporated DeKalb County received 60.94% of the SPLOST funds that come in on a monthly basis. The city of Stonecrest is the largest city in DeKalb County, and as such, we received 7.5% of the SPLOST funds as they come in on a monthly basis. And then, as you can see, the breakdown for the remainder of the cities from Brookhaven all the way down to Pine Lake. Knowing that there are 12 municipalities in DeKalb County. So since May of 2018, each municipality in DeKalb County has received a prorated share of SPLOST revenue based on its population directly from the Department of Revenue. So on a monthly basis, we receive a check direct deposited into our SPLOST fund. And as of November 30th of 2019, SPLOST has received $11,850,645 in SPLOST revenues. Currently, in our SPLOST piggy bank, we have a balance of $7,809,642. Next, I just want to briefly touch on our program management plan approach. Phase one, which we're currently in, is complete our transportation master plan. This is being managed by VHB. We have a contract with them to conduct our transportation master plan. Phase two is to identify the SPLOST category project initiatives list. So out of the transportation master plan, we'll then get a list of the comprehensive list of all of the projects that we plan to do in Stonecrest, basically over the next 20 years to improve our infrastructure. Phase three will then be to establish a SPLOST 1 project list. So these are the projects that we plan to accomplish during this very first SPLOST. So the plan is that there will be subsequent SPLOST, and we'll be able to use the money from those for those. But for right now, the current SPLOST that we have, we'll put together a list of projects that we'll accomplish using that SPLOST money. And then phase four will then just be implementation of that SPLOST 1 project list. And so what we'll do is once we have our transportation master plan, we've put together our tier one list of projects that we want to accomplish, then we'll begin the implementation and start going to bid on those projects. So phase one is our transportation master plan. And as I stated, VHB will be coming up shortly to give an update on what they're doing with that. The transportation mass analysis basically looks at where we are right now, does a current state analysis of where we are here in Stonecrest, and then using a number of other tools in their toolbox, working with GDOT, working with the ARC, doing other types of analysis. We'll look at what our future state will look like and how we're going to get there. There will be a series of public outreach meetings. We'll be trying to break those up by district. We plan that we do about 10 of those. So far, about 5 have been done so far. So we'll have plans to actually do about 5 more. And then based on our public input, in addition to those public outreach meetings, we also have a series of also steering committees. Our SPLOST Citizen Oversight Advisory Committee is serving as our steerco for this, as well as we've had a number of focus groups. So we've looked at some different populations within the city, mainly based on different businesses, the industrial parks and that kind of thing, to actually get input. And really this works after we get a lot of public input. So right now we're in the public input phase of this. Coming out of this, we'll identify the project locations and the scope by category, whether they be transportation improvements, multimodal improvements. So multimodal, thinking of people that may want to walk, if you want to walk and jog, if you want to set up some bike paths and those type of things. Those are the types of projects that we're also looking at. So those are included in our transportation master plan. We also have some money set aside to go to parks and recreation. We want to make sure that those are included in our transportation changes that we plan to make, as well as any capital improvements that are included in there. So if we decide we want to do something in the realm of public safety, we'll have the money and we'll set that up in our projects as well. And then last but not least, the repaving projects that are going on, and those will be dictated by the pavement condition analysis and road maintenance plan that was put together by a study done by Stantec last year. The next phase is phase 2, where we'll actually put together our SPLOST category project list. If you recall, when we had this, when our SPLOST referendum was approved here in the city of Stonecrest, we did have a list of categories that we wanted to attach to our SPLOST and how we're going to pave the, how we're going to make these types of capital improvements throughout the city. Unfortunately, that was a little, not a little, but that is inaccurate at this time, because we've made some changes to the way that we're going to actually manage and actually deliver on these projects. So coming out of the transportation master plan, we'll also have a revised list of projects, as well as the categories and the amount of money that we'll be spending in each area. Phase 3 will identify the top projects for each category, prioritize the SPLOST initiatives in the Tier 1 and Tier 2 projects, incorporate the pavement condition analysis and road maintenance study using our LMIG and SPLOST funds to do that, as well as any other funds that we do acquire while we're going through this process. prepare cost estimates for each project. If we got to keep in mind that we're only going to be collecting about $45 million out of this SPLOST. I can tell you right now that the improvements that we need to make in the city of Stonecrest are going to be considerably more than $45 million. So we really have to make some tough decisions as to what we want to do with this SPLOST, and then prepare ourselves to go into the next SPLOST as well. Prioritize our projects based on our cash flow that comes in from SPLOST. Currently, we're averaging about $611,000 per month coming in from SPLOST, and so we do have a nice amount of cash flow, but we do have to make sure that we do ration that out and decide what's going to be the best bang for our buck that we get for the projects that we make. Develop and publish our Gantt chart for the project, for the scheduling and sequencing. Initiate our RFP process for how we'll actually bid out on the projects. And then last, set up our project-specific budgets and the estimates that go along with that. One other key component to this is going to be our purchasing and procurement process. We're part of our due diligence is to identify vendors that will do good SPLOST work for us. As we build a world-class city, we want to make sure that we have folks in here doing world-class work for us. Bake in robust procurement function that incents participation by local, minority, and women-owned companies that actually operate in the area. And then also use our website and other means to actually publicize these and for tracking purposes. Remove any subjectivity from contract awards. So we want to make sure that we're making sound, objective, scientifically numbers-based awards, and then make sure that we're putting in the added quality control for our contract for fulfillment before payment. And I am happy to say that in the next couple of slides, you'll actually see where we've already implemented many of these measures, and you'll see firsthand how we've already put some of these quality control efforts into place. Last but not least, this is phase 4, selection of the design firms, finalize our budget estimates, complete the project design, implement our procurement process for construction, and then last, start our construction. The next steps is schedule the public meetings to gather transportation issues and provide feedback as follows. So as I stated before, about 5 of the 10 public meetings that we plan to have already been completed. And so there will be more coming up during this month and probably into February. Also have some open house review meetings where we'll discuss the findings. So as the VHB is coming up with their findings from their report, they'll be reporting out and letting folks know where we are in our transportation master plan, as well as coming before the council to give briefings on their progress. And actually tonight will be one of those council briefings. The plan is to complete the transportation master plan by the second quarter of this year. So we're looking at the April-May timeframe for getting that done. And then, as I stated before, integrate our pavement condition analysis with the public feedback to create a Stonecrest pavement management plan as well. From our Stantec study that we did last year, we have about 400 lane miles here in the city of Stonecrest. Based on the feedback from that study, about 200 miles of that 400 are in bad or poor condition. That means that basically half of the city needs to be repaved immediately as we speak. The issue with that is to do that, it'll probably cost us about $100 million to do that, which far exceeds the money that we're going to be collecting from SPLOST. So we're going to have to, like I said, we're going to have to make some decisions and use, get some guidance from you as to best way to address that and make the most progress. And actually, Ken Hildebrand will be coming up shortly to take us through how we're going to be doing that. This next slide, I'm just want to run through this really quickly. These are some of the SPLOST projects that we completed in 2019. Number 1, the Evans Mill Road and Salem Road purchase for Parks and Recreation. If you recall, at the corner of Salem Road and Evans Mill Road. Over the summer, starting in June and ending in November of this year, the 2019 SPLOST and LMIG projects that were conducted. The construction was done by Blunt Construction, our quality control by Southeastern Engineering Incorporated, and also some project management that was delivered by Jacobs Engineering. Also, the city, we looked at some of our city hall systems, and we're looking at making some integration changes to the way that we actually do business here internally. Looking at, we got a contract with Quicket Solutions to actually look at those. The intersection control evaluation study that was done at Evans Mill Road and Salem Road, we noticed that was a trouble spot, and we did a really small study just to look at that and look at some feasibility of some changes that we could make there. Once again, I've spoken about the transportation master plan as being conducted by VHB. The Farrington Parkway Park acquisition, those 66 acres that was purchased by the city, as well as the Sears property, the earnest money that went to secure that property as well. So last year we spent about $4,041,003 was spent using SPLOST funds. I also wanted to noted at the bottom, all of these projects have not been, they have all not been invoiced yet. So some of them are going to bleed over into this year as we're completing on. And as we get ready to go into our 2020, just wanted to note that we made some excellent progress. This slide shows this was actually Thompson Mill Road, the poor condition that it was in, and we did a little over 1 mile of Thompson Mill Road. And it's really amazing as you go from unincorporated DeKalb County and you cross the bridge and you go into Stonecrest. It's like you're on a totally different road now. So a little bit by the numbers. Last year in 2019, we did about 22 roads. Just about 9 miles were resurfaced from May 2019 until October of 2019, with a total cost of $2.9 million using LMIG and SPLOST funds. The savings from our Phase 1 resurfacing was about $300,000. And this was all due to the efforts of our project management that really scrutinized and really looked at the way that the company was actually doing their paving work. And we were able to shave a considerable amount of money off of the cost that we were planning to spend on that one. On Phase 2 of the SPLOST during 2019, the savings were approximately $400,000. And that includes the portion of Salem Road that has not been completed. If you'll notice, if you're going down Salem Road, you'll notice that there's a little bit of a rough patch there. We could not complete the paving at that portion because DeKalb County Watershed Management is actually doing some work in that area, and so it's going to be it's going to be in 2020 when we'll be able to go back and finish up on Salem Road. And then with the money that we were able to save, we were able to actually resurface one entire subdivision, just about 1.3 miles. The Chestnut Lake subdivision was paved using a portion of that saved money. And now I'm going to turn this over to, I was about to say Hollywood Ken Hildebrandt, but Ken Hildebrandt is our city engineer, and he's going to talk through some of our rationale and our procedures going forward into 2020. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jonah.
Thank you, Ples. Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Evening.
It's been a while since I've presented to you guys, so thank you for the opportunity. Just to give us a little further background on what we've done so far in terms of our resurfacing program, what we've done, how we got here, and where we plan to go from here. So if you remember, back in early 2019, we wanted to spend some money on resurfacing. Our streets were in really bad shape. We didn't have our pavement management study yet. So we went with the only thing we had, which was the DeKalb County rating method. And we resurfaced the single worst streets on that list. There were 18 local streets. And then we added Turner Hill Road because Turner Hill Road was in such disrepair. But the way the county rated their streets, they did single streets. So these 18 streets were scattered all over the city. But we were able to knock that out for under the budget amount, as Ples said. So after that work was underway, we got our pavement management study from Stantec completed. Once we got that, we came back to council and we kind of showed you the data, and we said, we asked you what approach you wanted to take. And there are several ways you could have done it. You could have resurfaced single streets, or you could do what we call super sections, where we cluster streets together in a more logical, economic fashion. Or you could do major roads. So the consensus of council was, let's go ahead and concentrate on some major roads the first couple of years, because those are the ones that affect all of our citizens, all the collectors and arterials. So that's what we did. So on our phase 2, we did Salem Road, Rockland Road, and Thompson Mill Road. Didn't quite finish Salem Road, as Ples said, but so that was our point of emphasis last year. And I wanted to show this chart, which you've seen before. This chart shows our PCI scores. And this is from the pavement management study. PCI score, again, is Pavement Condition Index. So that's the rating of all of our streets in the city, from 0 being the worst to 100 being the best. And these lines that you see, the purple line is if you had all the money in the world. Obviously, your PCI score is going to be near 100. Our existing PCI score is a 52, which is in very poor condition. That's the average PCI score of all our streets. So if you think about your kid bringing home a math grade of 52, that's not too good. You wouldn't be too pleased with that, but that's what we've got. So again, the chart, the red line on the bottom is if you didn't spend any money. Obviously, your PCI score is going to decline over the years. So the question is, what do we do in between those lines? How much money do we think we need to spend? And this graph shows that we need to spend at least $6 million a year just to have an ascending PCI score. Anything less than that, and your overall score of your streets is going to decline over the years. That was pretty eye-opening. So again, so the proposal for this year, that number's wrong. It should be 37 roads is what we plan to go out to bid for resurfacing. The majority of that money would be on major roads, but we are going into some of the local subdivision streets as well, and I'll show you that here in a minute. Our cost estimate is about $6 million. That's what we feel like we need to have a positive PCI score. Staff has ridden all of these streets and estimated all the quantities, which there's a lot involved with that, because you got to determine, it's on a street by street basis, what condition the road is in, how much do we need to mill, how much patching and leveling and binder and topping do we need. We have to estimate all those quantities. So we've done that. And the other thing we did is we submitted a list to Georgia DOT for the LMIG. And I believe you guys saw that. So we've got, and we may have received that check. If we haven't, we're going to receive it any day. We received it. Okay. So that was $562,000 of LMIG money. And that actually comes to us in advance once our application is approved. So we've got that check in the bank. So $562,000 of that $6 million will be paid for by state funds. So here is the list, and this may be hard to see on the screen, but first I want to go to the second sheet on the list. These streets in yellow, we have a number of streets, or we have 3 subdivisions in the city that were never completed when they were developed. Well, typically what a developer does when he comes in and builds roads, grade it out, and they'll put 6 to 8 inches of graded aggregate base. That's the rock base. And then they'll put about 2 inches of rough asphalt layer, which is called binder. And typically what they'll do is they'll run on that binder during the life of the construction of that subdivision, because if you put the final layer of asphalt on during the construction, the heavy truck's going to beat it up and cause problems. So typically, again, they put the binder down, and once the subdivision completed, then they'll finish off and do the last 2 inches of topping. But in these cases, the economy went south, and the developer is gone, and the topping was not completed. Normally, today we require developers to give the city a bond in the amount of the asphalt. Under DeKalb County's domain, that was not done, so the city is on the hook to finish off these subdivisions. So this is the list that was sent to the state for the LMIG, and that which was approved. So these are the unfinished subdivisions. So that's what we started with. We felt like we really needed to do those first, because they were never finished. You've got manholes that are 2 inches up in the air, and that's where we began. And then back to the first sheet, we did our worst collectors in arterial roads. So we've got Farrington Road, Mall Parkway, Panola Road. What's not on here that I forgot to include was Evans Mill Road. We've got Evans Mill Road from Salem to Browns Mill. So yeah, y'all are probably familiar. That's in really bad shape as well. So we were able to include that on the list. And then in addition to that, we've included some of the very worst local streets. Well, that's our proposed list. Our next steps, we've got our bid document. We're ready to go out to bid. We would send that out. It's got to be advertised in the local paper. It'll be out for at least 30 days. We'll advertise it on the website, on BidNet, on the government procurement site. Get the word out there, and we'll receive bids. And concurrently with that, we will go out for an RFP for what we call CEI services, construction, engineering, and inspections. And that is a firm that's contracted directly with the city that will oversee the day-to-day operations of the paving. So in addition to the Jacob staff that's monitoring things and making sure everything's done, and saving the city money, and looking at invoicing and all that, we would have this CEI company that's boots on the ground every day. And that probably be, I'm going to guess, around $100,000 for that contract, but it's well worth it. As Ples said, between the program management team and the CEI contractor, we save the city a lot of money, so it really pays for itself. But once we receive the construction, the bids for the resurfacing and the RFPs for the CEI services, we'll bring that back to the city council for approval, and we'll get to work. So it would be about a 6-month construction process, beginning in hopefully March or April.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Ken, question in reference to the companies that we used last year. Will these companies have to come back and rebid? Or are we utilizing any of those companies again without them coming back to bid on it?
Talking about for the actual resurfacing, yes, we're going to go out to bid again. The problem is asphalt companies, they don't hold the prices very long, because asphalt really fluctuates a lot. It depends on oil prices. It depends on how far they have to truck the material from their plant. There's a lot of factors that go into it. So you really have to rebid it pretty much every year.
Question?
So we receive about $6 million a year in SPLOST, right?
7.5. Somewhere in there. Did I miss the number? I'm sorry.
Is that what it?
42 in total, right? Over 6 years.
That's $7 million, a little over $7 million a year for 6 years.
Okay. So this, if we're gonna use $6 million of the 7 for resurfacing, that leaves us about $1 million. And I'm assuming that the $6 million includes the fee for all the companies that we're bringing in to perform the resurfacing, right?
We think so. I mean, we'll see where the bids come in, but we feel like it'll come in around $6 million for all that.
Okay. So when I was looking at the transportation master plan, they have some other things outside of resurfacing, as Ples was speaking to earlier about sidewalks, lighting, bike paths, and things like that. I guess, in what year are we foreshadowing to begin to do some of those things if we're using more than 90% of our total that we receive from SPLOST on resurfacing each year?
Well, like Ples says, that's why you guys get the big bucks, right? You got some tough decisions to make. So we're going to get a transportation master plan, and it's going to say you need $60 or $7 million in sidewalk and trails, and it's going to say you need $umpteen million for intersection improvements and road widenings, and so this is one component of it. But you're right. This takes a large percentage of our SPLOST, and we have a lot of other needs. It's just not all going to get done with the SPLOST money we have available. So those are the decisions you have to make. My warning is if we don't get on top of this thing and put the money to it, you're going to have a declining level condition of your roads.
Excuse me, Ken, the LMIG money's in there, right?
LMIG, yeah, 600, what did I say?
500.
562,000.
So in other words, we'd have to spend about 5.4,
Exactly, yeah, you're right.
and we're collecting about 7.3. So I don't know what percentage, 5/7.
Yeah. One other thing to consider, we did not start using our SPLOST money until last year. So we were collecting money back as far back as 2018. And so as I stated before, we have about $8 million is sitting in the bank right now. That's an accumulation of what we received in 2018, what we did not spend in 2019. And so I think we're in pretty good shape. But as Ken also stated, we're going to have to look for other sources of revenue to help us with this. We're not going to be able to fix every single thing. Every single problem is not going to get fixed with our SPLOST money. But as part of the transportation master plan, there is one team that is their job is they are looking for other sources of revenue to assist with defraying some of these costs as well.
That's definitely good for us to keep in mind, especially as we have these kinds of presentations and we see kind of this total number that appears to use, almost everything that we're bringing in. And then to come behind that with another presentation and then say, you guys make a decision. It's kind of like, well, to see them together would be nice, or have some scenarios. It's like, well, if we did this and a little bit of that and a little bit of that, it's helpful to keep that, I guess, in the forefront of our mind. Because when we see this looks, we look great, looks good. We see streets in each district. We see the CPI score moving, and then we get hit with another presentation that goes, oh, by the way, your sidewalks are falling apart. You have no lighting. Your kids can't see when they walk to school. But we've already said, yes, go with resurfacing. Right? So we've already spent all the money, but then we come back with another presentation saying you need more. So.
And once again, so coming out of, this was our plan for 2020. Once we get our plan from our transportation master plan, then we'll integrate this with that. And then really, midway of 2020 forward with the remainder of SPLOST, we'll then harmonize those two from that point. But just up until this point, we just did not have any data to even consider sidewalks, lighting, intersections, the trails that we wanted to build, and all those type of things as well. So yeah, point well taken, Councilwoman.
Mr. Kim, may I ask?
I yield.
May I ask you a question? What can be done to hold the builder accountable for leaving these unpaved streets? We should not. No, I won't say that. Just answer that question.
The unfortunate answer is at this point, for these three subdivisions, there's not a whole lot we can do because these guys are long gone. Today, when somebody comes in, we inspect the road. We make sure the base is installed properly, that there's proper compaction, that they put the binder on, and that the topping that they don't put on during construction, that they bond that. So if they do go under, then the city revokes that bond, and we pay for it, and the taxpayers are not on the hook for that. But unfortunately for these, the ship has sailed.
So did I hear you make it clear that the cab kind of did not collect the bond on those subdivisions?
Right.
Okay. Are you finished?
Triple check.
Have I triple checked that? No.
Okay. I heard the mayor get excited about Evans Mill being paved, And I've gotten a lot of complaints about Evans Mill. I want to bring it up, but when I look at the list, I don't see Evans Mill on here. I see it on the map, but in terms of the layout here, I don't see it. So it appears as if everything on here is offset. You might want to check your map versus your list.
Yeah, that was my error. I left out on the spreadsheet, I left out Evans Mill Road, so that should be included. And I think that does throw the numbers off by one.
So all of the numbers, not just that one, but it appears that all of them are off. So if you're reading the list, you get one thing. You look at the map,
Yep.
and you get something.
We'll get you a revised
Yeah,
list,
okay.
but Evans Mill Road should be added.
Okay, very good.
And is Evans Mill in yellow?
No, Evans Mill was not included on the spreadsheet.
Where will it fit? Will it be in yellow, or will it be in green, or will it be in?
It'll be in the white. It'll be along with.
In your revised, in your updated version, Evans Mill will be number 23. Okay.
Then everything after that kind of shifts one.
Correct.
I think
Right.
when we insert that.
Thank you.
Okay. You mentioned something else too about staff riding these roads to confirm what you already had. So they're kind of inspecting the way the CAP kind of used to do before we actually address them.
Well, the pavement management study, we have that data, so that's good. That gives us our basis for selecting the streets. But that study did not necessarily quantify how much asphalt, how much milling, what the cost of that is going to be. So that's why staff takes that information and estimates all those quantities.
Okay, and the reason I come to Evans Mill is that maybe about a year ago, Evans Mill was okay, fine. And we noticed it deteriorated in a hurry. So my concern is that if we run Stantec and we got all of this good data a year or so ago, are we going to have to run this same process on a regular basis to update the changes in the road? Because with the rain that we're getting now, and don't let it freeze at this time, we're going to be in big trouble. And I'm not an engineer, but I can tell you that. So how do we follow up?
Yes, that's a good point. So the study we had done last year is basically a snapshot in time. But like you said, things change. The freeze thaw cycle, the rain, heavy truck traffic can change things. So we recommend doing a new study every 3 years. And I think we paid, what did we pay, 50,000 or 70,000?
It was 70,000.
70,000.
Yeah, 70,000. And one other thing to keep in mind, as we were going through our education phase on this, if you recall, the life cycle of a road, and then as you move past 10 years, past 15 years, the roads deteriorate faster. And we got to admit, our roads are right at a little over the 20-year point. And so they're breaking down and really deteriorating a lot faster than they would as if they'd been properly maintained, and if they were right at the 10-year point and we're doing this. So we are definitely playing catch up at this point.
Yes, ma'am.
I would say got two. First one should be easy though. On the same list, there's some streets that are missing the PCI. I keep calling it CPI. PCI score. Is there a reason why they don't have one listed?
Yes, so remember we talked about doing super sections.
Right. And
a super section could be either a single road, for example, Evans Mill from Browns Mill to Salem. That's by itself is its own super section, because it makes logical sense that you can pave that section of the road without disrupting anything else. And so these, the way these are grouped, these are grouped in super sections. So you have a subdivision or a group of streets with a single PCI score. So for example, the Field Spring subdivision there, the overall PCI score of that subdivision is 24.3. Some of them have like Phillips Road has a PCI score, but just by itself. But others are cluster streets, if that makes sense.
Thank you. And my second question is how, and I guess maybe plus, this may be a better question for you, because I'm not sure how much Ken responds to our county request. But do you feel like over the year we've made progress with the county responding to some of our typical routine maintenance of the roads, not necessarily the resurfacing, but when we are reporting immediate potholes or other just craters in the road, have they come along throughout the year with really responding to that, or are we still tug of war?
Let me see who's here in the room. No, actually, this is a very difficult point contention here. We are working, work very closely with them. One thing to keep in mind: DeKalb County, it's 1,800 miles of road. So when I report in a pothole to DeKalb County, they're getting potholes all over the county, and so they're responding to those, and so they just don't have the manpower to get the next day to do those type of things. So to your point, it's about the same. It's about the same, which is why we're planning to make steps this year actually for us to start doing our own pothole repairs. And so we're going to start that. We'll be hiring a public works person. Will be coming on board in about a month and a half, and that's going to be part of the charges for us to start phasing that in. So by the end of the year, that we'll be doing all of them ourselves, and so then we can more quickly address them because we have a much smaller area to deal with. And we'll also be able to provide a much better service to our constituents, because when someone calls in, I can then say, okay, they're going to be out there in 24 hours. They'll be out there in 48 hours. And so at least we can set some expectations right now. Is I call in and it's like, okay, we'll get to it when we get to it. And that's just not a good level of customer support in my estimation.
Right. Thank you both, gentlemen. Appreciate that. All right.
I would say 8.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to transition over to our transportation master plan update, and we're bringing forward Marcus Arnold from VHB and Katrina Highsmith from the collaborative firm.
All right. Good evening, folks. How y'all doing?
Good. How you doing?
Excellent. Good seeing you again.
Thank you. Thank you, Bud. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, for inviting us here to give an update on the Transportation Master Plan. And with me, I have Katrina Highsmith, who is leading our public outreach effort. She'll be providing some updates as well on our public outreach activities.
All right.
So the study purpose essentially is to address all the transportation needs and opportunities within the city of Stonecrest. As part of the process, we've established a series of study goals and objectives. And really, as mentioned earlier, this plan is a 20-year vision for transportation for the city of Stonecrest. So as part of that, we'll be developing a list of projects that help address those needs and policies and programs that will help with implementation, phasing and implementation of those projects. Project timeline, as mentioned earlier, we're estimated to complete in the April-May timeframe, and we're currently collecting input and assessing transportation needs at this point. And what we'll be doing as part of this presentation is giving you some of the initial findings and some opportunities for areas to look at as it looks at the system as a multimodal. So it looks at everything from highway to transit to bicycle, pedestrian improvement. As I mentioned before, we have done a review of current plans just to make sure everything is coordinated and we're efficient in our analysis. Also, looking at existing conditions for all the different transportation modes. So we collected data, gathered input on those, and also assessing the performance of the system, understanding where there are some areas where there additional improvements needed and some that are priority for improvements. And then also to review of other municipalities and how they organize and fund and their structure for running their transportation. So this first map really shows the roadways and traffic, some of the information that we've collected to date, and really we've identified that a majority of the transportation within the city is by car. Obviously the roadways are continuing to get congested, and those are one of the areas that we'll be looking at improvements to help resolve some of the congestion as the plan goes through a 20-year period. Some of the major commuting is between Stonecrest and some of the neighboring communities in DeKalb County, Rockdale, and also to commuting to and from downtown, Midtown Atlanta. Transit, we looked at transit as well, and we're identifying existing transit and understanding how MARTA and Greta Express service serves the city as well, and understanding that a lot of the transit that's currently provided is on the kind of the northern end of the city along I-20 and parts north, and there may be some opportunities for additional connectivity and service to the southern parts of the city as part of potential improvements. Sidewalks, so we did a sidewalk inventory, and roughly about 20% of the city's streets currently have sidewalks. So we're working on really identifying opportunities for improvements there, and connectivity and increasing safety as well. So there's opportunities for connection into existing multi-use trails as well as other residents and employment centers within the city. And then the bicycle network, we're also looking at ways to expand the existing network. There's opportunities. Currently, there are no bicycle facilities on the streets currently, but there may be opportunities for some of those, but really connectivity into what's existing. A lot of multi-use trails with Arabia Mountain, and there's some opportunities for connections to other key areas within the city, connecting people to jobs and as well as to shopping and services. So with that, I'll give it to Katrina to give an update on public involvement.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So, as Marcus was saying, I have been interviewing stakeholders and conducting focus groups throughout the city of Stonecrest. I have interviewed a majority of everyone sitting in front of me, so thank you for your time with that. We've also interviewed the department staff, Stonecrest Business Alliance, the Lithonia Industrial Park, Arabian Mountain. We still have a couple of the Snapfinger Woods Industrial District, as well as the Chamber of Commerce. So we are wrapping up our interviews. We also have interviewed stakeholders in DeKalb County, as well as MARTA. So all that information will be provided to VHB and compiled into a transportation master plan. We have also conducted a series of pop-up events throughout Stonecrest. We have been in districts 1, 2, 4, I believe. We still have 3 and 5 that we have to hit, but we have 5 more that we're looking to conduct between January and February. We have an online survey, so I'm more than happy to share that link with everyone. It is also on the city's website. We also, if you have any digital correspondence with your constituents, we're happy to share the link. We're trying to get as much feedback as possible from the community members in Stonecrest to take the online survey so we can understand what their needs and concerns are when it comes to transportation. So again, if you have any digital correspondence with your constituents, we can definitely give you the link, and we're looking forward to getting a little bit more responses than we have now. And our next steps are just completing the stakeholder interviews, scheduling more pop-up community events, summarizing and documenting our transportation needs here in the city of Stonecrest, and identifying and analyzing performance of potential improvements. Questions?
I do have a question. You had stated something about Snapfinger Woods Industrial Park. What exactly?
Yes. We're doing a focus group with business owners in that area to understand what their needs are. We're hearing that because of the amount of, trucks that go in and out of that area, the streets, they're using it residentially as well as with the, truck companies. So we need to identify, other, points of access when it comes down to that area. So we have a focus group that we're going to conduct with some business owners in that area.
And with that focus group, because there's approximately maybe 3 to 4 movie studios over there. So are you talking with the movie people, or are you talking with those, I guess, ancillary services that are provided for movie studios?
We
Who are you
should be,
talking
yes.
with?
We should be, yes. So I'm in contact with one of my contacts in the city of Stonecrest who is compiling a list for me. So I will make sure that they are on the list. You're welcome.
You say pop-up events? Pop-up, I take it just that unscheduled, unadvertised, and you just show up and
Well, no, we advertise them free in social media, and we also make sure that we let all the councilmen and councilwomen know if we're going to be in your district and if we're not going to be in your district. But we just say pop up just because that's just the best term that we use. But they're not necessarily pop up. We do give advance notice so people can come to these events.
okay, because I had some concerns expressed to me about that. So advance notice is about how much?
About 2 weeks.
2 weeks? Okay, good. The other one is the online survey. Your feedback on that. Are you getting anything that says that you're missing the mark in terms of what people are looking to address?
I don't think necessarily missing the mark, no. I think that we're getting more data in regards to how people are getting around currently, and we're realizing that a lot of people are driving, so we're trying to make sure that we give them ulterior options on how to get around the city. So right now, we haven't had any, I wouldn't say any, feedback in regards to we're missing the mark. I think that the information we're getting is beneficial to what we're trying to do.
Yeah, if I may add a little bit to that, the online survey is part of the data gathering. So there hasn't been much, there hasn't been a whole lot of analysis done with that information. But the main thing is we want to get as much input from the citizens as possible. So Katrina has offered this up, and what she would like to do is, if you would, within your districts, if you have a nice mailing list, if you could send out the link to the survey and get your constituents to participate, and so that we can gather the information from them as well.
You might have said it already, but how much time do we have to?
I didn't.
Done?
February 15th.
February 15th. Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Are you able to post a link tonight so that constituents in the audience might be?
Well, it's the link is actually
I understand it's on the website.
yeah, we can. Yeah.
Post it. Okay. Yes.
Yes.
That's coming out your feed. Sure. While she's fixing that, let me ask you a question, which actually may help if it was visual, but some of the diagrams in the presentation, although there are legends on it, I wanted to ask you a little bit, I can have a better understanding of some of what do the colors mean.
Which
Your baby?
we can, yeah.
Okay. So I want to go to the sidewalk one first, just because I'm biased for District 3. That was a joke. Why am I biased for District 3? Random.
All right.
Okay. So I see the legend has effective street network and existing sidewalk. So I guess I understand existing sidewalk.
Okay.
Effective street network. Tell me what that means.
So what we did was we looked at, we compared kind of neighborhood streets, so streets that are within neighborhoods or cul-de-sacs, those types of streets, kind of local circulation, with streets we call effective that are basically connect from point to point within the city. So those are streets that your major thoroughfares, some of them are minor, but for the most part, the streets that really get people to and from different points within the city. So we did do an assessment of local neighborhood streets, and a lot of those actually had sidewalks that were newer neighborhoods that included that, but some of the major roadways were the ones that are part of the.
So those are essentially the ones that need work or don't exist, need to be.
Yeah, so the light green is actually the streets themselves, and then the darker green is that the areas where sidewalks are currently available. So out of that effective network, I want to say about maybe 22% is sidewalks. Overall for the city is 20, but for the effective network for the the roadways that are highlighted in green are about 22%.
And then, if you'll talk me through the bicycle level of traffic stress, tell me what that means.
So our analysis looks at, for bicyclists, it's a study that looks at different types of bicyclists, and we look at traffic stress. So essentially, a roadway, is it designed for kind of the average, recreational rider, or is it for more avid riders who are used to riding with traffic? So there's a score between 1 and 5, 1 being kind of your, more neighborhood, more networks that are lower speed traffic, and all the way up to 5, which is higher speeds, could be 45 plus miles per hour. And those we look at are those who obviously riders, cyclists who do this all the time and don't really have a fear with interaction with traffic. So the goal would be to try to get more streets that are more in the kind of the 3 range, 3 and lower, so between 1 and 3. And there may be some opportunities for some of the kind of more of the minor collectors to whether it's providing bicycle infrastructure along those roadways, lowering speeds, and those types of things for recent bicycle usage.
If you were to put the sidewalk over the bicycle, how would you say that there's opportunity for us to use kind of that analysis to say we need more sidewalk here that would, I guess, provide 2 birds with 1 stone, if you will?
Yeah, that's kind of our next phase, is actually to start to kind of merge the different modes together so we can kind of see where those gaps are, especially for the bike and pedestrian, see if there's opportunities where there may be both facilities not available that may be able to prioritize as far as potential.
Add a little bit to this. And some of the feedback that we've been looking at as well is the how popular the Atlanta Beltline is, and so there's been a lot of there's been some chatter and some feedback as well about a way that we can put together something for Stonecrest in a similar vein. So not really a Beltline per se, but something that will accommodate riders and people walking and pedestrians as well. And so that is one of the charges. We'll also be combining with the Parks and Rec master plan, as well as working with the Path Foundation, and to connect in with our Arabia Mountain path as well, and then extend that out into the city, mainly to connect our residential areas with our commercial as well as with our industrial areas, so we can truly be, live, work, play type of environment.
I have a question about traffic lights. That's something you guys are working on, am I correct? Working with?
Yeah, we're actually assessing the traffic operations at various intersections. So essentially to understand, what areas are efficient or need, upgrades to provide efficient.
My reason for this question is I have several senior communities in my district, and there are a couple of areas that really need traffic lights. There's been a lot of accidents. I guess my question is, are you working with GDOT to ensure that these traffic lights will be installed, or how are you working with GDOT, or if you are at all?
Yeah, so we actually are going to have have a meeting with GDOT to start to talk through the information that we've collected, talk about what their plans are as far as improvements, and then too, where we see there may be some needs and improvements as part of this plan as well. So there will be that coordination with District 7.
So let me ask you this. So is GDOT the final authority in reference to where a community has a traffic light or not? Even though we request it, even though the community wants it, does GDOT make that final decision?
It depends a lot of it if it's on their existing right of way. If it's a state road, they obviously are managing that. But there are opportunities, I believe, within the city for locally managed roads as well. So the city has jurisdiction on kind of the final say on those local roads. And the point would be to coordinate with GDOT up front as far as what some of those needs are, so they're at least at the table and understand what the issues are.
So when you said you're going to be at the table with GDOT possibly?
Yes.
Is it possible that I could be there, one of the representatives from the city could be there?
Yeah. Yes, yes.
Please inform me when that happens. Thank you.
All righty. Good deal. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you all.
Sir, very good.
Megan just stepped out for a second.
All right. And we're going to hold on for a second. Give us 2 minutes, folks. We need the clerk to be in here.
Oh, we don't have stuff.
That's what I'm saying. We're trying to.
Oh, I'm logged in.
find out.
All right. Good deal. You back?
Back.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. We're going to move to our appointments. Appointments that we have today will be for Mayor Pro Tem. I will take a nomination from the floor. Now, being by the floor, I mean council floor.
Mr. Mayor, I nominate George Turner.
All right, we have a nomination for George Turner. Do we have any further nominations? I'll need a second for that. If you just,
Second.
all right, moved and properly second. If there are no further nominations, we'll take the vote for Mayor Pro Tem for Councilman George Turner. Seeing none, all in favor for Mayor Pro Tem for George Turner, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Congratulations, George Turner.
Thank you.
Public comments.
We have two. The first one is Kennard Turner.
All right. Mr. Turner,
Good evening.
how you doing?
Kennard Turner, 2303 Rhino. I got a question, it's not necessarily a comment. What is the transparent process by which nonprofit organizations are chosen to use Parks and Rec facilities to provide services to the constituents of Stonecrest? And the reason why I asked that question is because I had a meeting with Parks and Rec, seemed to not be able to get any feedback from them. And I know you guys require certain things, and there are certain entities that operate on your property that don't meet those requirements. So because I didn't get a response from them, I figured I'd just come here.
I'm going to refer you to my deputy city manager after the meeting so you can.
Does he have a card? Because the college football championship game's on.
There's a motive for the briefness. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Bernard Knight.
Mr. Knight, how you doing?
Fine.
All right.
Good evening to you. Good evening, City Council. Happy New Year to everybody. And congratulations again to our new councilwoman, Mrs. Tammy Grimes. Welcome to the fun. I'm going to have to speak quickly. Unfortunately, the agenda packet was not available until very short time before City Council began. There are several things on it. I also, it looks like neither Mr. Dave Marcus nor Ms. Faye Cofield is here tonight. And I felt that somebody had to step up and talk since they, although big shoes to fill. The first thing, I did speak with the developer, Mr. Jay Bernstein, about this apartment complex project that involves the Housing Authority, and clarified where it's going to be. My understanding is that it is going to be on the west side of the Baptist Church, not the east side. And it will be on part of what was the Fun World / Grand Empire property, but not all of it. My concern was that my clients, the Kellys, have a parcel at 6508 Old Hillendale, and I didn't know whether this project was going to be right jammed up against it. Apparently not. There will be space there. My second concern is about the presentation that you saw tonight, the PowerPoint presentation about the Master Transportation Plan. Now, first of all, let me say that we have had nothing but great experiences with the consultants, with VHB, with Ms. Katrina from the Hightower firm. Things are going very well. They have been very diligent about soliciting input from us. There are a couple of problems, though, with the maps that they showed you tonight. And I would have done this differently if I'd had access to the PowerPoint before now, but I'll have to do it now to put it on the record. First of all, these maps show Coffee Road as still existing. We went over this and had to go over it with the comprehensive plan update. Coffee Road was abandoned by the county in 2008. They deeded it to the Kellys. It doesn't exist. Unfortunately, it's popped up again on every one of these maps that you saw tonight, so that has to be taken care of. The second thing is that the so-called LOS, level of service, which indicates, I think, satisfaction with service, shows an A or a B or at worst a C for the area of Lithonia Industrial Boulevard between Covington Highway and to the north. That is utterly untrue. I don't know where that comes from. I must have come, maybe the ARC, maybe someplace else. The fact is, as all of you know, that is an incredibly dangerous piece of Lithonia Industrial Boulevard, and the level of satisfaction with it is awful. So I've already spoken with the consultants, and I'm confident that they will be taking care of that.
Thank you.
Thank
sir.
you.
Appreciate it.
No more public comments.
Oh my. No public hearing. Oh, goodness. Oh, might see this after all. All right. All right. We'll go to A. Asked this, Councilwoman asked this earlier. So the resurfacing schedule for the 2020. We're good.
We're good.
All right. Lovely. Council B. Consideration for the resolution for the Housing Authority of the County of DeKalb.
Hello, Anna Maria Hazard. As we discussed in work session, thank you. As we discussed in the work session, this is a resolution to approve the issuance of bonds by DeKalb County. And the reason why you all need to approve this is because this deal began before Stonecrest was a city with DeKalb County. 3 years later, Stonecrest is a city, and they're trying to issue bonds within the city limits. And we also have a housing authority. So the housing authority needed to approve DeKalb County issuing the bonds, which they did last week on Tuesday, I believe, last Wednesday. And so now we're before you all to approve the issuance of the bonds as well. And this is an affordable housing community that will be in District 5.
All right. Council.
Just one for click. What is the resolution number?
This will be resolution number 2020-01-001.
Thank you.
Council, if we don't have any further questions or inquiry, I'll take a motion to approve.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
move for approval of Resolution 2020-01-001.
All right.
Second.
Properly moved and properly second. Any further consideration? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So approved. All right. C, the Urban Redevelopment Agency, URA, implementation and map.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. As we discussed in the work session, there multiple pieces of business that we need to attend to. The first, we neglected to specifically by vote appoint the members of the Urban Redevelopment Agency in our December meeting. And so the first order of business would be to appoint those members. Secondarily, there's a resolution before the mayor and council as it relates to the designation of the Sam's building, the Sears building in the urban redevelopment agent area, as well as a map that delineates the boundaries of the urban redevelopment area. And it is before the mayor and council for approval this evening as well.
All right. With permission of council, I have three things. First, I would like to approve the motion for members of the Urban Redevelopment Agency, the initial members, and that would be Councilwoman Cobble, Councilman Rob Turner, Mayor Jason Larry, Councilman George Turner, Councilwoman, yeah, I'm having a day, Tammy Grimes, and Councilman Jimmy Clanton. And that is in my motion. Do I have a second? Properly moved and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you very much. Those are our initial members of the Urban Redevelopment Agency. Second, I would like a motion for approval of the map. So, I move that we approve the aforementioned map with regards to the area for the urban redevelopment area. Do I have a second? Second. Probably moved in second. Any further discussion?
Just one question. I think you answered it before, but just for the record, we can adjust this as need be as we go along.
Yes, sir. That can certainly be adjusted. It's not set in stone, and you may add to it, take away from it as you see fit down the road.
Just for the record. Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Map passes. Is there a actual resolution number, Madam Clerk, for?
Yes, sir. It's 2020-01-002.
All right, Council. I move that we approve resolution number 2020-01-002, resolution for the Urban Redevelopment Agency. Do I have a second?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Properly moved and properly second. Any further discussion? Right. Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes. Thank you, Council. Mr. City Attorney, have we covered everything properly for this end to make the execution?
Yes, sir.
All right, good deal. Last but not least, of course, holiday schedule for 2020 for our resolution.
Sorry. Could you repeat that?
For the holiday schedule for 2020, our resolution for the holiday schedule.
The resolution number is 2020-01-003.
All right, Council, I'll take a motion for the holiday schedule.
Mr. Mayor, I offer the motion that we approve the holiday schedule for 2020. Resolution number 2020-01-003.
Excellent. Properly moved in a second.
I second.
All right. Got 1 out of 10. Way to go, Councilwoman. Got your first one. Yes, sir. Come on, give it up for her. Properly moved in second. Any further discussion? That's what I'm talking about. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Beautiful. Passes. All right. We've been to executive session. Mr. City Manager.
I don't have anything, Mayor.
Mr. Deputy.
Real quick, take that survey. Go online and take the survey.
All right. The City Attorney. Madam Attorney. Mr. Auditor. Go, here he is. Go. Mr. Whole evening up. Madam Clerk, we good? All right. I'll take a motion for an adjournment. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Got ahead of myself. Councilwoman Cobble. Councilman
I'd just like to wish all the beautiful, illustrious ladies of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated, including our new councilwoman and my wife and daughter, a happy Founders Day. And a pre-Happy Founders Day to my other councilwoman, Council Lady Cobble.
All right. Councilman Clem.
I would just like to admonish everybody to do two things for me. Number one is to check the Stonecrest ga.gov website. You'll find a lot of information about our meetings, the minutes, and certain things like that. And we're going to work real hard to make certain that all this information is updated. There's a link to the master transportation plan, as well as minutes from last meetings, as well as videos. That's number one. Number two, every month on the first Saturday of the month, we have our regular. Really, it's a community awareness meeting, and I would like to invite you all out. It's at the AEI Startup Factory. The meeting starts at 10 o'clock every first Saturday. Thank you, guys.
All right. I'm in. Councilman.
We're going to do a census report, a census form. Quickly, how many people live in your house? Were there additional people staying there on April 1? Is this a house or an apartment? What is your telephone number? Please provide information for each person living in your house. What is the person's one sex? What is the person's age? What is the person's race? And you are now finished doing the census. It's just that simple, folks. You're going to get more information as we go along, but I know all of you are going to participate. The real challenge is for you to get your neighbors and people who normally do not participate in these type of federal mandated program to participate. So I'm begging you, please get your neighbors, your friends, anyone you know to participate in the 2020 census.
All right. Councilwoman Grimes.
Thank you, Stonecrest. Again, save the date for January 28th. You're in District 5. There's more information coming, but there's going to be a talk with Tammy. Stay tuned.
Oh, slick. Oh, that's good.
6 o'clock to 7:30 at the Stonecrest Library. January 28th.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right. I'll make this brief. And when you see me run out of here, it's not because I don't like y'all. I want to thank each and every one of you all that are here for your prayers and for your diligence and in supporting me, because I feel great. 100% on the physical side, and it just couldn't be any better. I really appreciate it. Councilwoman Grimes, I'm going to have to speak to the sheriff because I have a Millennium that's back home, and he brought a dog, a car, friends, haircut, just the whole thing. So we'll have a conversation about that. But with that, I'll take an adjournment. All right. Second, all in favor? All right.
You gone? Bye. Can I get a picture with you? Can I get a picture with you?
Nobody run up here and try to talk to me.